time. Yeah. Hello. Good evening. I guess you should be getting my video feed. If not, kindly ensure that you have pinned my icon on your top right corner of your screen. You just click on that, you could see all the participants in this chat, and just pin Chitrarth so that you could get my video feed, and the time when I even start presenting, you can see my presentation as well.
Sorry for interpreting that. There will be some voice is somewhat yours breaking.
Oh, okay. I need to check that. We see my internet connectivity, how it is. Okay. Okay, I'll just do a quick audio check. So Dinesh, how is my voice right now? Is it still
Yeah, now it is okay.
okay? I think there should be some internet issues. I guess the upload speed is also looking good. I think we should not have any problem from now on. If at all, kindly feel free to interrupt me anytime so that I could check and try to correct it beforehand. All right. So without any further ado, let's get back to our presentation. So uh, as of yesterday, we were looking into now. Yes. So as of yesterday, we were actually uh, discussing about how 3D printing works and how 3D printer works. We even took a deep dive into how slicing works. So what are all the different parameters which we need to control so that we can effectively slice our designs of the buildings which we have created. For that, we took a reference of a small portion, a corner portion of a building with floor and couple of walls. And as I promised yesterday, let's actually take a look into the printing part as well today. So before that, I would also like to explain you how 3D print, how to interact with these machines. So these machines are again like I got a couple of machines over here. Uh, See them, but of course, it should I don't think you'll be able to see the displays or anything like that. So for that purpose, I've actually included it in our presentation itself. So let's start one by one. Let's first get to know what are all the basic components in our. Right. So let's begin with components of a 3D printer. So the parts of a 3D printer, typical 3D printer normally has these following parts. It will have a carriage for the motion. Okay, if you could see the camera, if you could see, this part, the smooth rods or the rails, which is used for the motion of X and Y axis, is normally called as a carriage, and the control panel is used to control the machine. You have all the options for interacting with the machine. So normally this is called as HMI, human machine interface. And then you have a build plate. The build plate, which is pointed over there, is nothing but the platform in which the part is being printed on, right? So in our counter crafting, we would not have a build plate, but rather we'll be having our carriages, our control panels, and other stuffs. But instead of build plate, that is going to be our prepared base or foundation, right? So once you have a foundation and you have prepared the base, you could start. Oh, okay. I think I need to have a check on that. Okay, so I do have other alternative internet connectivity options, but unfortunately, they are all of mobile data. So this is only the broadband option, or else. Okay. Okay, let me try to quickly switch back to a mobile data connection and see and try out.
Siddharth, hello. Siddharth, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you properly.
Actually, I think your mic is alone a problem. I think data is not a thing. Network is it's okay.
Okay. I'll just get back my old mic. I think I had some few issues with my old mic, so I thought of like going back to the normal mic itself. Just give me a minute. I'll just quickly get back. Okay, it shouldn't take long. Let me connect it. Yeah, it is connected. Dinesh sir, how is my audio right now?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Hello?
Yeah,
Perfect.
now it is okay. Are you hearing? Yeah, okay.
It's just perfect. It's perfect. Okay, so let's get back to the topic. Sorry for the in-term delay. And if you could see over here, so we have control panel, we have carriage, we have the filament spindle. The filament spindle is a cartridge which normally holds the material. So instead of a filament spindle, normally in our countercrafting machine, we wouldn't have a filament spindle kind of thing. Instead, we'll be having a cartridge or a storage container which contains the part A and part B of the material, and there will be some impeller pumps which is used to pump the material from the from the storage containers to the mixing chamber where the material is mixed in a given ratio, and it has been sent to the nozzle or the extruder to deposit the material. So So these are all the basic parts of the machine. Now let's quickly get back to these are all the additional parts, which is normal. This is a standard build part for a desktop type 3D printer. All right. So let's quickly get back into the user interface. So when you see the user interface, you're going to have the reason why we are taking a look into the user interface is because let's say if you want to build your own 3D printer, which could technically move to a larger extent and which could deposit concrete material, there are certain firmwares. Firmwares are nothing but the operating systems. You could compare firmware with an operating system of your computer. Like say if you're viewing this webinar in your Android phone, the Android is the OS, right? So similarly for all these 3D printers, there is again a OS, or it's a firmware, not a OS. So the firmware is actually open source. There are tons of firmwares available. I could name a few actually. There are firmwares like Marlin, Sailfish. So basically, they are all like millions of lines of codes which is used to control these machines. Once you give a G-code instruction to your machine, the firmware is responsible to interpret the G-codes and send the control signals to the driver IC, like say the stepper driver ICs, in order to control the stepper motors present in the 3D printer. So why you should know all these things is because I do understand, being a student of civil or architecture, you guys it is actually out of your field for you to learn embedded systems, or rather programming, or rather electronics. But still, for you to develop your own 3D printer which could print in concrete, you should it is suggested to develop skills or knowledge, at least basic level knowledge, into these areas. And that's the purpose of this entire workshop itself. So we'll be taking a look into what electronics are, how to choose your right motherboard for your 3D printer, how to choose the firmware, and how to customize your firmware, how to do the programming part, how to do the coding part, and at the same time choosing different electronic components, like what type of stepper driver you should use, what type of extruder gears you should use, what type of let's say the controller IC, and basically all electronics and all mechanical components as well. So it's a huge topic. So we will be cramping them up into in today and tomorrow's session as well. Whereas it will the only objective of this particular workshop is to give a glimpse into how these machines work, and just to give you an idea, so that it could inspire many of you people for you to like create your own 3D printer. And if you're very much interested, I could in the end of this workshop we'll be sharing certain websites as well, which would be goldmine for you to like pursue your dream to create your own, let's say build your own 3D printer for your final project. So that's possible. So now without any further ado, let's take a deep dive into the basic user interface. Okay. So you could see you have build option. So let me just quickly move this camera near the 3D printer. So basically, this particular machine has a touch HMI, which is a human machine interface, which means you could touch the machine to interact with it. You could choose different options and play with it. Whereas this particular machine, it is a typical dot matrix based display, where you could, it has a rotary dial and a press. Like say if you want to control, you should be like going with the rotary dial acts as an input, and this dot matrix display acts as an output, and of course
you could control all your stepper motors, actions, and everything. Okay, so this there are several type of systems available. Okay, so if you want systems like these are pretty cheap to build and pretty easy to program as well. So there are certain libraries available in the GitHub repository, so you could directly download it and then you could get the necessary hardware and build your own system as well. So okay, now let's take a look into, let's just focus on this particular mission. So as you could see in the slide, you could read a file from your USB stick. So normally these printers accept files via Wi-Fi or via USB or USB Type A and Type B as well. Type A is nothing but a USB cable which you need to hook up with your computer, and then you could transfer the data. And the other thing is like you could use a pen drive, and then it has a USB port for you could insert. So once you want to build once you choose the build option, you will be getting two of these options. So the left one is actually the internal storage, and the right one is actually the external storage. All right. So once you choose any type of storage, you'll be given an option to say you'll be given a list of options basically. The list of options will be looking something like this. If you could check my camera feed, you could see, and you could see the wall which we sliced yesterday as well. All right. So once you choose, you will have these three options: build, copy, delete. And if you choose build, it will start printing the wall. All right. And so the next option is actually to set up the mission. So before starting your printing process, you need to ensure that you have your mission set up properly. So for that, you need to preheat the mission. Preheat is an option which is used to prepare the mission to heat the extruders and the build plate, if at all. And you could set temperatures. Normally, this particular material melts at 230 degrees, but for our countercrafting mission, we don't need to worry about these temperatures and all. You will have a new set of problems over that to face, like new set of challenges. So once we set up, there are different calibration tools, which let's not discuss about those calibration tools right now. Yeah, so these are all some print head adjusting settings, which are all calibration paths. The servo calibration, which is used for calibrating the build platform. So the platform needs to be calibrated, and similarly, you will have calibration things to be done in your countercrafting mission as well. So yes, these are all the basic normal. It's as you could see, the entire user interface is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. It's really not that complicated. So now let's take a look into the G codes and M codes. Yesterday we actually sliced. So now that you have seen the mission's user interface, let me actually explain you the G codes and M codes, and let me explain you how this mission interprets those G codes or M codes which we created yesterday for the walls. Like basically, we use the slicing software Cura for generating the G codes and M codes, right? So let me quickly switch back. Yes. So for yesterday's, yeah. So this is what we sliced yesterday. So the wall which we sliced yesterday, it is of you could see it is having a layer count of 160. So 160 is the number of layers which is used to build this particular section of wall. And what I'm doing is I'm going to save this file. All right. So, and I'm going to save it in, yeah. So it's going to be wall.gcode. All right. So this is the G code which we created. Let me quickly open it up using another software. It is nothing but a WordPad kind of software. Yeah. And also I will also increase the screen resolution so that you could see it properly.
Siddharth, sorry for interrupting. Actually, your presentation is stopped, Dave.
Yes, sir. Okay, but I'm actually using my. Okay, so I think you need to change the view to. Oh, fine. I think I haven't shared my entire screen. Sorry for that. Okay, let me quickly show what I have done before. So, are you able to see my screen right now?
Yes, Siddharth. Now it is okay.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so now, now if you could see, this is what the wall portion which we designed and sliced yesterday using a slicing software called Cura, and it has 160 layers. 160 layers is the total count which is used to print the entire part layer by layer and then develop it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly save this file and okay, so I'm going to save it as wall.gcode. So normally the format will be in .gcode format. Okay, so I'm just overwriting it. I've already done that thing, but still, just to get a glimpse. So now what I have done is I have opened the same file in a text editing software. So it's a software called like Sublime Text software, which is used for coding purpose. So this is the G code which Cura has created, right? So it actually runs to several lines. So before that, let me quickly change my screen resolution so that you could get a better display quality, since the text are all pretty small. Yeah, I think this should be much better. Yeah, so you could see the left one is actually the line count, all right, and this is the actual coding part. And now this is something like how you're probably most of you would have come across your C++ kind of coding in your first year. And this is something similar to that, but it is actually much more easier because all you need to follow here is syntax, and you need to memorize certain commands like what particular series of numbers represent. For instance, if you see there is a command called M140S550. So this represents something. All right. So I will explain you each and every one of these commands for you to grab an idea how these G codes and M codes are created. So the same applies to your CAD/CAM machines as well. So that is how your 3D printer works. That is how your countercrafting 3D printer works as well. So let me begin from line one. So before that, let me, of course, you don't need to worry a lot. No human in this world will be like typing this entire program. Like your C or C++ program part, people normally, we need to type it and develop it, right? But the G code and M code, it is almost 99%, it is automated. The reason is because, these codes runs for like several lines, sometimes even millions of lines. See, for our simple structure which we created yesterday, so this particular program for for this very simple wall structure with just 160 layers height, it ran us up to the line count of 31,254. Okay, so it is impossible for any human to type such amount of codes. And when you slice when you want to print a very complicated structure, the line count is going to go to enormous levels, sometimes in millions. Okay, but still you need to know the basics of these lines, how they work and everything. So let me begin with the first line. So, okay, normally after a semicolon, whatever data it is present, whatever text which is present after a semicolon is treated as a comment, which means the compiler in your 3D printer will ignore the text which is present after a semicolon. So probably from the lines 1 through 10, through 11 actually, it is only given for the human viewer to understand. All right. So since it was this particular slicing was done using Cura, so it is actually mentioning what is the flavor of this particular mission. So Marlin is actually the firmware. Marlin is something like the operating system, like how your Windows or how your Android operating system you're using. So similarly, for a 3D printer, there are different operating systems, or technically they are firmware. I should not call them operating system, but just for your understanding, I'm calling them as operating system right now. But Marlin is a firmware. All right. So there are different firmwares. Something like, say, Sailfish is one thing. Different firmwares are available. Let's take a look into these firmwares. Probably in tomorrow's session. And this time is actually, it is used to represent how much seconds it is used to print this particular part, and material used, what is the layer height. These are all straightforward, you could understand. Min x, min y, min z, which represents the minimum starting point of your the printing start, the object's position on the build platform. So which has the minimum x distance, in x-axis, what is the minimum x-axis distance, and what is the maximum x-axis distance. So between these 2 points only the part is going to be printed. And what is the minimum y, what is the minimum z, and what is the maximum z. So max z represents the total height of the part. So could get an height like 32 mm is going to be the height of the entire part. So, and this is again a command which is used to what type of engine was used to slice this part. Okay, so now from here on the actual coding begins. If you see M140S50, it represents you need to set the temperature. M140 represents to setting of bed temperature. So normally in a 3D printer you have a build platform. So the build platform will be, but of course in this machine we don't have a heated bed, but this particular command is used to set the platform's temperature to 50 degrees Celsius. The platform gets heated up. And the second, on the 13th line, if you see M105, it represents the command which is used to get the temperature data from your sensors. So it will be stored in the PID, or there are certain registers available, which is okay. Let's not get too complicated. So basically, this command is used to get the temperature information. All right. So again, coming back to the 14th line, M190 is again used to represent setting of temperature to the heated bed. Again, M104 is used to set the temperature of the extruder. Extruder is the part which is going to melt the material and then deposit. Okay, so for that purpose, we are setting the temperature to 200 degrees Celsius in this case. All right. So again, M105 is used to acquire the data from the thermistors, what temperature reading it is having right now. And yeah, so let me just quickly complete. Don't worry, I won't be going through the entire G code. So they run for several thousands of lines. So we don't need to do that. Let's just complete this entire part. This particular section is called as the start G code section. That is still line number. Line number 35. So this particular section is called as the start section of a G code. And all you need to know is these are all the parts. Let me quickly complete it. So yeah. Now after this M109, we are setting the temperature to 200 degrees Celsius, as I told you before. We are giving a command called M82, which means that the values from here on is going to be in absolute extrusion mode. So it is there are different types of extrusion modes. So M82 represents that we are going to start printing process in absolute extrusion mode. So let's you don't need to worry about too much into it, like, because if I need to explain each and every one single of them, it's going to take the entire duration of this workshop. So this is just to the idea of this workshop is to give you a glimpse or an insight into how these awesome missions work, and also to inspire students like you to build your own missions. So you can always feel free to reach me out once after, even after this termination of this workshop, like even after completing of the workshop. If you are looking to pursue your creating your own 3D printer, and if you have any doubts or anything, feel free to hit me up. I'll also share my contact details at a later session. And yeah, so let's quickly dive back to our topic. So M201 actually represents the mission. We are setting up the mission's acceleration data. So the maximum acceleration, so which means M201 is an instruction which is sent to a 3D printer's operating system that for printing this particular part, you should not have a value of more than 500 meter per second square. So for this x-axis and y-axis and z-axis, and E is for the extruder stepper. So the amount of material which has been pushed through the stepper motor on the extruder. So these are all the maximum acceleration values which the machine should go. So it should not exceed this particular number. All right. And M203 is again setting up the feed rate. Feed rate is the amount, the speed at which the axis is going to move, or amount of material is going to deposit in particular axis. Let's say for while moving in x-axis or y-axis, the maximum feed rate should not exceed 500. All right. So for z-axis, the feed rate is not more than 10. And for extruder stepper motor, the feed rate is not more than 50. So again, M204 stands for, these are all different parameters which we are setting. So if you wonder how these values are actually taken up, so they are actually taken up when we set up the Cura. In Cura, if we choose the type of printing, over here, like say if we control the, like say, let me just go to speed part. So if I change the value of printing speed or infill speed, or any parameter over here, that will actually affect the acceleration and jerk setup. So M205 is for the jerk setup. Jerk setup is nothing but like at what deceleration and acceleration the extruders or the axis stepper motor should move. And M220 is a command which is used to reset the feed rate, and M221 is a command which is used to reset the flow rate. So we are resetting the feed rate and flow rate just to clear out our registers. Okay, so these are all the parameters which are all sent to the basically they are the instructions for the 3D printer to how to start working. Now let's get back to the actual fun part. So G28 represents home. Home as in, let me, okay, I think you guys need to change your kindly change the view to the camera mode so that you could see my laptop's camera view. So home, basically when G28 happens, what happens is the machine goes to home. So as you could see, the extruder moves towards 0,0 position. So this is the 0 position of x-axis, 0 position of y-axis, and 0 position of z-axis. Okay, so no matter where the extruders are, once you hit home, it basically goes to its home position. So this command, this G28 command is used for that purpose. And yeah. Okay, so now you can get back to your normal, yes, now you can get back to your normal presentation screen. Okay, so the second, in the line 28, what represents is like G92E0. G92 is nothing but a counter which is used to know how much the stepper motors have turned, right? So when we enter G92 E0, what happens is the extruder's counter is resetted. So extruder is nothing but the material which is the motor which is responsible for pushing the material into the nozzle. So that particular counter has been resetted. Now again, if you see, there is a command called G1 Z2. G1 normally from now on, just remember this one particular command. Okay, G1 is a command which is used to move any axis. If you type in G1 X1, which means the x-axis will move for it moves to a position called 1.0. When you type in G1 Y52, it will the y-axis will move for to its 52 units position. If you ask me what are all these units, they are all in millimeters, by the way. So over here, the z-axis is moved up to moved up by 2 mm, so that we get some free headspace, so that the nozzle will not scratch the platform. So in the next command, what we do is G1 X 10.1 Y20 is at 0.28 F 5000. So now what happens is we are moving the entire extruder to a x-axis position of 10.1 and y-axis position of 20. So this is similar to the Cartesian coordinate system which we discussed. Let me quickly show you the. So we were discussing about this particular system on our day one session. So normally these missions, they work on Cartesian coordinates. As I told you before, they actually move in x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. And so this is where the entire mathematics comes into picture. All right. Yeah. So now we are moving our x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. Again, we are again moving the x-axis and y-axis, z-axis. So this is, we are drawing a very first line, so that we are testing if at all, if there is any, the nozzle chamber, if it is out of material, it will, while drawing this first line, the chamber will get filled up, so that, while printing the actual part. So this is something like a dummy line, basically, so that, if any vacuum is there inside the nozzle chamber, the vacuum gets filled up. So again, in the line 32, we could see that the extruder is moved to a side, just a little, so that it doesn't mess us up with a dummy line which we drew before. So again, it's drawing another second line. This is for redundancy purpose. If at all the chamber wasn't filled up while drawing the first line, the chamber should fill up while drawing the second line. All right. So now again, we are resetting the extruder and we are moving up the z-axis. Okay. So now from here on, it's going to be very plain, simple G code and M code. So we're not going to mess up a lot. So now you have M141 S28, which represents, basically, you need to move the, verify the temperatures and then move your extruder to 0 count. So again, so this is actually for redundancy purpose. Why we have two different G92s is because all you need to, just single thing will work out. But let's go to the line 40. Again, we are moving the feed rate to 2700, and we are retracting our extruder. The extruder stepper motor is retracted by 5 mm. Okay, this is done because the nozzle should not ooze material while moving. So it needs to be retracted. That's the reason why we are retracting it. And these are all comments. So these, the text after the semicolon will be ignored by the compiler. Okay, so again, we are setting M107 to get the temperatures, and then we are moving G0 is to set the registers, and G1 is to set the actual motion of the axis. So this is again comment line 45. So this represents, so from this on, from this position, your actual printing starts. So skirt is actually a type of print which is used to print outside of the build outside of your exact part, so that the part actually gets some addition. So now from here on, let's just quickly go to our actual printing process. So now we are setting the feed rate to 2700 and we are resetting the extruder counter to 0, which means like we are again, since we retracted before over here, we are again not retracting, we are again increasing, turning the stepper motor of the extruder so such that it comes to its previous position. So now the chamber is again filled up. All right. So now in line 47, G1 is used to move the axis, and this is going to be the feed rate, and this is the position which we are traveling to. So this is the speed at which we are traveling, and this is the position which we are traveling to. So this particular line represents the motion of your extruder from home position to not home position, from the previously drawn dummy lines position to this particular position, and we are going to start extruding material. So from then on, it's going to be the same simple similar process. So if you could see over here, the axis is 82.36. Now from that position, we are transforming to translating to 83.105. And similarly for y-axis position, we are again updating our position, and we are meanwhile we are depositing this amount of material. So this is how your entire G code looks like from now on. Okay, so this is each and every line represents one single point in the Cartesian system. Okay, so basically the compiler will read these data, turn the stepper motors such a way that the extruder goes to those positions. So wherever you see, you're going to have G1 x-axis value, y-axis value, stepper motor value. Then you could ask me, where is the z-axis value? Because 3D printer normally has 3 axes, right? So since we are printing it layer by layer, in the first layer, the z-axis value is going to be 0. So that's why we are not updating the z-axis value. But let's quickly go to layer number 2. Yes. Okay, so till now the first layer hasn't been finished, so it's still printing the first layer only. Yes, so this is the actual second layer. So this is actually layer number 0, which we saw before. Okay, so now we are going to layer number 1. So basically that layer 0 is actually the skirt part which we printed out. Let me do a Control F and go to layer 2. So if you see in layer 2, immediately you will have a jump in z-axis. Okay. One second. Let me show you the data where exactly it is. Yeah, so just before starting our next layer, you could see the value has been updated over here. So once after the layer is completed, you have certain set of commands which will raise your z-axis distance, preparing it for the next layer. So only in areas like these you could see the z-axis value. So in rest of the areas you will only see the values of x and y axis along with the extruder stepper motors count value. So this is how your G code will look, and this particular thing will run for several thousands of lines until the entire part is finished. So at the end of the G code, you will have a end G code part, which actually tells how the printer should, once after the print is completed, there are certain protocols which the printer should follow, so that, like say, it needs to turn off the heater, it needs to turn off the cooling fan, it needs to check certain things, and then it needs to move its extruders to its safe home position. So these kind of commands will be present once after the print is completed. Let's take a quick look into the ng code part, and then let's get back to the next topic. So if you see over here, the G1 F2700 or this is basically we are specifying the feed rate. And so this is the total duration, which is time elapsed. So based on this counter only, you will be getting the status on your printer's display as well, like how much time is remaining and how much all those data. So once after that, you will have a M140 is used to set the extruder the temperature of the heated bed, and it is set to 0 degrees Celsius. So the heaters of the extruders are turned off, and we are getting the data from the thermistors. And from absolute coordinate system, we are actually changing to relative positioning. So this is a type of positioning system where yeah. So this one is we are moving the extruder stepper motor. We are retracting it by 2 mm so that there is no material present inside the nozzle chamber. Okay, so we are retracting a bit. So this is a speed at which it needs to retract. And this is again, after again we are retracting, and then we are reducing our z-axis distance, which means we are raising the z-axis distance at this particular speed. So retract and raise z-axis, and we are wiping out the nozzle. This is a G1X5 Y5 at speed of 3000 is used for moving the extruder motor, in a very safe position, which is 5-5 position, so that it will wipe out any residue or strings of material which is present in the nozzle. Again, we are raising the z-axis, and then we are changing back to absolute positioning system. So instead of relative positioning, we are changing to absolute positioning. And we are turning off fan, we are turning off hot end, we are turning off bed, and we are disabling all stepper motors. So yeah, so M104S0 will turn off the heaters, and that's the end of G code. So basically these part it will be ignored by the compiler. So this is how G code works. I know I do understand G codes and M codes are a whole new topic which requires a lot of time for you to understand. But you could if you're very much interested, you could just Google certain G code commands. Like you could just type in like say M107 G code. So it will give you the details. So just type into Google, and you could get all the details. So as I told you before, M107 stands for turning off the cooling fan in your extruder. So once you send this command to your printer, the printer will automatically turn off. So if you see the history of G codes, only in recent times, only after 1990s, we are having a graphical user interface, which is called as GUI interface. We are fortunate enough that we don't we were not born in an era where people used to program or give an input to a computer using complete commands only. So the G codes and M codes were actually invented in a time when commands was the one and only option to interact with a machine. So that's the reason why now, if at all, if in nowadays, if you want to turn off a fan, all you need to do is open up an application. You could just click on a button on your screen, and then it turns off, right? So instead of that, for communicating with your machines, people used back then all these codes. So 107 is used to turn off fan. So again, G92 is used to move your stepper motors, something like that. All right. So that's about your G codes and M codes. Now let's quickly come back to our topic, and we and meanwhile, I would also like to show you people the printing process which I promised you yesterday. Yeah. So if you could, I think I think you can all see my camera feed right now. So the wall which we designed yesterday, it was printed, and I stopped it midway so that you could see the infill patterns as well. All right. So the G codes and M codes which we saw today, this is how the entire part is print. So if you really focus on uh, if you really understand the concept how this particular part is manufactured, that will be mind-boggling actually. Like you could so this is the entire external wall which we saw, and this is the infill which we saw. Let me again show you the. All right, so this is how the part was manufactured. So I do hope you guys got an idea, a glimpse into how these machines work. And in tomorrow's session, what we will be discussing is we are going to deep dive into building, what it requires to build a 3D printer. So I'll be sharing you a community called RepRap, so which you could take it as an assignment today. If you are very much interested, you could choose to check out the RepRap page, and we'll be discussing about how to choose electronics, how to do the coding or programming part for our 3D printer, and how to choose the different, what are all the different options available, like what kind of mechanisms you have, what kind of say electronic components like cooling fans or the thermistor or the extruding chamber, the nozzle, different versions of nozzles, and different power supplying units like SMPS, the driver ICs for driving your stepper motors. So we'll be discussing about all of them in tomorrow's session. So hopefully, if you are very much interested, kindly check out reprap.org. I will be posting the. Let me type it in the comment section right now. So kindly check out this particular site. You could take it as an assignment. So this particular RepRap site has entire reprocess. It is something like a GitHub website which is specifically dedicated to 3D printers. All right, so you could develop. It has designs and everything. All. So this particular site has entire references for building your own 3D printer. So we'll be discussing about, as I told you before, in tomorrow's session we'll be taking a deeper dive into what it takes to build a 3D printer. So that's it today, folks. So you could start. We could start the discussion session right now. I'll be answering the questions. And the remaining questions will be, you could post it to our Google Classroom. As Mr. Dinesh instructed, kindly ensure that you actually join our Google Classroom so that, so that you could, get updates on the resource which we'll be posting in our Google Classroom soon. Yeah. So you could, Mr. Dinesh, back to you, sir.
Yes, actually, only one participant given his question that these codes, that is all these codes are created by Cura software, or we need to feed it manually, or might we need to edit those codes? This is the only question that we received through chat box.
Okay. Okay, kindly ensure that you have your mute turned on. Yeah, sure. Thank you. As you were asked before, this particular print actually took us almost costed us like say 30,000 lines of codes. So which is definitely not possible for any human to type in and then to print a part. So that's the reason why we are using a slicing software like Cura. So Cura will handle all the code generation and everything. So the codes are all generated by Cura, and that is how. The reason why you should be knowing about G codes and M codes is because if you are planning to build your own 3D printer, see, these G codes and M codes are the only inputs to your mission. So based on this particular data, the mission will actually work. So that's the reason why you should be having an idea into what G codes and M codes are. And if at all, if you need to change certain parameters, you should be knowing what data you should be changing. So that's the reason why we were taking a look into it. Majority of work, 90%, we won't be requiring to update it manually, but especially for counter machines like countercrafting, we need to update the G codes and M codes because the slicing softwares are not optimized for countercrafting 3D printers. So if you're planning to build a countercrafting 3D printers, it is highly advisable that you will be you should be knowing G codes and M codes to some extent. Yes, sir. Back to you, sir.
Yes, that, and one more question from Sandeep Gowda, that if the infill is empty, then what code says?
Okay, so basically, if the infill is empty, let me update it over here, and then let me show it to you, Sandeep Gowda, in our simulation. So let me change the value to 0 infill, and then let me slice it again. So this is how the part will be printed. So now what happens is the software, the instruction set will be like, extruder should move from this point to this point, and from there to here, and here to here, and then here to here. Okay, so this is what will happen. So basically, you'll be taking out a chunk of your coding part, and also in your slicing G code data, you will also have yeah, see, there are particular sections of your G code. Over here at line 418, you could see, type wall inner and then type wall outer. So basically, all you will be printing is the wall inner and wall outer. Since you won't have infill, it won't go through all this, the majority chunk of code. So it will only follow this particular chunk of code. Something code. Back to you, sir.
Yes, that, and Sandeep Gowda, the next person is about Kadirvel. He given a question that whether we can edit any of G code comment manually. If it means whether contour printing will, that means what he is trying to tell, if we have changed any codes manually, whether it will affect there in printing mode.
Definitely, because the instructions, the G codes are the one and only source of inputs to the 3D printer. So basically, this machine will follow, or if not say any 3D printer or even a countercrafting 3D printer will only follow the G codes and M codes instructions. So if you are updating the G codes and M codes, it is going to affect the printer's actions. So yeah, so that's how it works. Back to you, sir.
And another one question is about that machine parts and coding. We could make a printer that could operate at any size and scale, because I didn't get this question clear. It may be about a size and scale of a object that we are printing from the 3D printer. That's what it.
Yeah. I get it. So the person who have asked this question, I guess he or she represents, is trying to ask what will be the maximum dimensions a printer can be created, or the part can be printed out, right? So with reference, these two machines are like, very small and tiny machines. Yeah, in our office we have certain big machines which could go all the way up to a meter by meter by meter. And commercially speaking, there are certain 3D printers. Even for printing in plastics, they run up to, like, say, a couple of meters, which is like 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. And for countercrafting machines, uh, the one company in China actually built the largest 3D printer. They used a gantry crane mechanism, which had a dimension of almost 80 feet by 60 feet by 60 feet, I guess. So 80, 60, 60 feet, I guess. So that was the size in which people. But there are quite a few challenges to creating a 3D printer of that particular size. The reason being, the precision and accuracy will be greatly compromised, and when the size increases, the structural rigidity of the machine will also comes to a question, and you need to have a very high level of uh, uh, you know uh, the tools which is used to require to move those parts would be very expensive, because there is something called as dead weight and dead volume. So the dead weight will actually increase once the dead weight is nothing but the weight which is required for a motor to move in order to create an action. So the extruder is actually dead weight, and you have a lot of dead weights. Even the supporting arms, if you see over here, this particular beam over here is actually a dead weight, which is need to be lifted by the z-axis. So when when the height of this, I'm actually the machine is actually increasing its height right now. If you could see, it's slowly rising up. So this entire bar section over here also needs to be lifted up, right? So when the size of the machine increases, the amount of this particular area will also increase, and the mass will increase, and based on that, everything gets multiplied. So these challenges like these are difficult when you scale up machines. So it's always easy to build a very smaller machine rather than building a larger machine. So larger machines comes with these kind of challenges. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, and next question is about whether the codes are wrong, then what shows in the screen?
Okay, so nothing actually shows up. This is not something like your C programming. So once we have errors, it gets displayed on the screen. Rather, what happens is the printer will just try to follow the instructions which are present. Like say if you're trying to heat up the extruders to, instead of 200 degrees Celsius, if you're giving a command to say 2000 degrees Celsius, there are certain protections in the firmware, so which would inhibit, which would throw an error on the display saying that max temperature reached, and the thermistors will be automatically cut off because it's a safety hazard, right? Instead of 200, let's say if you have added a zero next to and make it to say 2000 degrees Celsius, you could burn your printer, and you could make the entire your workspace burn up. So there are certain redundancies available in the firmware, but only certain redundancies, not all redundancies are possible. For example, this particular machine has limit switches on one direction for every axis. So it knows it has been to its minimum position when it hits a switch. I guess you could hear the switch sound. All right. So, but whereas in this particular axis, if you see, it doesn't have a switch. Let's say if I'm giving a command to this printer, see this particular printer has a build volume of 140 mm. Let's say I'm giving x-axis, go to position 200. What happens? This particular machine will move and hit, and then it will try to move, and then the extruder will give you some weird sound. So by the way, it will damage the machine. So obviously, you don't you got to be very careful with uh, experimenting with your G codes and N codes. Yes, sir. Back to you, sir.
And another one participant named Kalayarasan, I don't know, he is just asking about, kindly tell about the trending softwares in nowadays. I don't know in which particular he is asking.
Okay. Kalayarasan, I think you must be asking about slicing softwares. Okay. So in that case, Cura is a very famous and most widely used open source software in the entire world right now for different applications. So you could choose Cura, and even there are special type of softwares where you need to have, for purchasing the software, you need to get a license. Some of them are like, Slicer is a software. You have ZSuite, you have FlashPrint, you have multiple proprietary softwares as well. So that is with slicing software. Um, so if you want to know about designing or any other softwares, do again, drop a message in the comment section. Yeah, back to you, sir.
Yeah, and the last two more questions are there. One is about color combinations, that how the colors can be changed and used in 3D printer product output, and whether we can try with a combination, that is combining colors and stuff.
Okay, that's a good question. So normally your color depends upon the raw materials color. So as you could see, the raw material over here is actually white in color. So the printer will normally print in white in color. But if you want to have multiple set of colors, you could have multiple extruders and then you could print two different colors, but you can't mix colors. That is with regards to FDM technology, you can't mix and match colors, which means you can't create your own custom color. Like how your ColorJet printer, CMYK printer prints in millions of colors, no? Such that that type of color is not possible using this type of machines. But there are certain 3D printers which are called as CJP printers, called ColorJet printing 3D printers, which could actually 3D print part in complete full color, which could mix and match colors and create, say, millions and millions of colors combinations. So they work in a different technology. They work something like SLS technology. It is something similar to SLS, but not exactly SLS. So yeah, back to you, sir. Probably I'll once again, sorry. Probably I'll also share a link to how CJP 3D printers work in our Google Classrooms page today. Back to you, sir.
And last thing is about if there any ready-made codes are available there for a design and other.
For designing purpose, we can't have a ready-made code because every design has its own unique code, right? You don't need to worry about. If at all, if G codes and M codes have driven, have made you think that it's too complicated, kindly don't be afraid about it. It's pretty simple. It seems complicated, but once you get the feel of it, once you start using the slicing software and once you start printing, even in the initial time of printing, let's say if you're using printers like these, you don't even need to view your G code. All you need to do is slice it, send it to a 3D printer, it will automatically print it for you. But for printing, for printing for using the G code in a contour crafting 3D printer, you should be knowing in and outs of the G codes. So for that purpose only, we were discussing about G codes and M codes today extensively. So don't worry about it. So you don't need to have a ready-made code. Ready-made code will not work, definitely. So creating a code and building your own stuffs are pretty simple and easy. And as time goes on, you will definitely learn. If you really have interest on this contour crafting technology, you could definitely learn it up. Yeah. Back to you, sir.
Yes, see that. And shall we close with one last question?
Sure.
And we'll because after that also again Vigneshwaran and another one participant writing the question. They may come up with a Google Classroom, then it is easy to answer from you. And now the last question is about if we use a 3D printer, how long does it takes for a mixture to become solid?
Okay. Depends upon the material which you're going to use. For contour crafting 3D printers, currently certain polymers they actually look like resins actually. So once they mix out two different part A and part B, within few seconds they turn into solid. As in, like, say, within 10 or 15 seconds maximum. So that's the reason why you see, their viscosity actually increases exponentially. If you see an exponential graph, it actually goes in a inverse exponential curve. Like say, assume that this is the viscosity, and let's say this x-axis is time and y-axis is viscosity. The graph will look something like this. So viscosity will increase uh, gradually up, and after some time, after as time progresses, it will turn to solid. So that's how the curing process takes place in countercrafting 3D printers, and the time required will be around maximum, like say 10 to 15 seconds. So the technology behind designing your mixing chamber and extrusion, that's why it is, it's pretty complicated, and only a dozen of companies in the world are pursuing to achieve it. Yeah, back to you, sir. Hello, sir. Dinesh, sir. Hello.
Dinesh will be coming.
Okay.
I hope it is somewhere in another call.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. So,
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. There will be one small disturbances in my network. That's it.
no problem, sir. Sure.
Yes,
I think
Siddharth.
we can proceed with
Please proceed, sir.
Yeah. I think we could close up the question session, and then kindly students, please post the questions in our Google Classroom, and I'll be sharing this CJP ColorJet printing 3D printer video link today, and along with that, I'll also share certain resources which we'll be discussing tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a very the most important and interesting part of our seminar. So as I told you before, we'll be discussing the electronics. We'll be discussing about the coding part. We'll be discussing basically all the core essential things which is required to build a 3D printer. All right. So kindly post your questions in our Google Classroom, and they'll be answered by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Yeah. Back to you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Dinesh, sir. Please take it.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Are we closing
Sure.
now, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Because I
Is there
posted.
any assignments given like that to work out? To start working, any assignments like that are you giving?
Ma'am, today I have just shared a link to the students.
Okay.
Basically, it's a link to a website called reprap.org, which I'm again telling you guys. Kindly check it out, and also ensure that you skim through the entire website. That particular website has the entire. It's basically a gold mine to start building your 3D printer. So it will have links to all resources. It will have links to all products. It will all the spare parts, all the coding part, the design files. You could just simply download the design files from the internet, and then you could actually start. If you have a 3D printer, you could 3D print the parts required for your 3D printer. So and so it's definitely worth for you people to check it out today. So that is your assignment for today right now, and yes, ma'am. So that is what I have planned
Okay.
for.
Okay, I understand. In between, I was not having any network. That's why I missed something.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to
No
know.
problem. Sure.
Okay. So, shall we close, Dinesh, with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
We will
ma'am. Thank you,
proceed.
Siddharth.
And
Thank you.
guys, have a good day. So let's catch up tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all the participants, and please kindly fill up a feedback link, and also please join with us in Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you, sir. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, bye.